Hello everyone and welcome back. It's been a little bit since my last video. Not too much has happened between now and then, really, on the training side of things, just trying to get back into that first groove of 2024, I guess. If you followed along at the end of the year, you knew that shortly after Ironman Florida, I went to the lab with Human Powered Health, which is a partner company, I guess, of Humango, who is one of my sponsors again for this year in 2024. And really, I've had a lot of questions about what I did in the lab, how that helped, and so I thought I would just kind of do a quick series on the Ask the Prof side of things about the trip to the lab, what I learned from it, and really what the purpose of each of the tests that I did. I'm not really going to focus so much on my own personal results, more on the tests that I did, as well as why I did them and what insights I was hoping to gain from them, and how they might be helpful for you as a viewer watching it as well. So I'm going to break it up into a number of different videos to try to keep the times a little bit shorter on these. And so this video is going to cover two of the non-performance tests that I did. Really, I started the day out with a basal metabolic rate test. Then the second thing that I did was a Dexa test, or a Dexa Scan. So those are the first two things that I'm going to talk about, and then future videos we'll talk about some of the gait analysis and some of the metabolic and the lactate testing that I did in the lab. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, the first test that I did was a basal metabolic rate test, and what I how this worked is you have to be fasted, and this was the first thing that I did as I walked into the lab at 7:30 in the morning. We kind of dimmed the lights as much as we could. I sat in a quiet area with the metabolic, hooked up to the metabolic cart, and just sat there for about 20 minutes. And really, it's trying to measure the gas exchange and help you identify how many calories you're burning in a given day when you're at rest. That's one of the things that comes out of this, as well as how many of those calories are from fat and how many of those calories are from carbohydrates. So that's kind of the main gist of the test and what we're trying to accomplish from that. So obviously you can make a lot of your general nutrition planning around having this number as a starting point. So you know how many calories that you need just to stay alive, essentially. So that's one big takeaway for somebody who's doing this test for the first time.
It can actually be pretty eye-opening to get your results back and see how many calories you need to basically maintain your current body weight. Obviously, if you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, this is valuable, but I always get a little bit of a chuckle when I get a number back and relate that to all of the calorie labels or all the nutrition labels on our food that says based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. It really kind of makes you realize how sedentary that so much of the population is, which is probably not the best thing to think about, or when you think about it. But most endurance athletes especially are going to be nowhere near that 2,000 calorie a day diet to be sufficient to fuel one proper training session a day, let alone 2 or 3. Another thing that this test can help you accomplish is to kind of lay the foundation of your overall fueling strategies for exercise. It can also help you identify if you're one of those people who definitely need to do a kind of more of the fat adaptation phase of training, or if you can skip that. It's not the only test you do. You kind of take this and use some of the testing that you're doing at pace to kind of combine that information together. But this is going to be, step one of that, process. The second test that I ended up doing was a Dexa Scan, and a Dexa Scan is basically one of the most precise and reliable ways of measuring your body composition. You are able to find out, how much fat and how much muscle mass and how much bone mass that you have. It can also identify areas of weakness in the bone. So this could be something that's really important for athletes who are prone to stress fractures or things like that. Getting this scan regularly is a good way to just stay on top of it and make sure that your bone density is going in the right direction or staying stable and not trending downward, which is something that we definitely don't want to see in endurance athletes especially. There's some good insights that you can take from this from a performance standpoint as well, such as identifying your left to right sides and the muscle masses that are involved in terms of, are they symmetrical, are they similar, are they different? A little bit of variance is obviously to be expected, but if you're starting to see something that is more than a couple percentage points off, that might be a red flag and just something that is worth evaluating further. Obviously, I said this is one of the most precise and reliable measures. Underwater weighing has long been considered the gold standard, and I don't really want to get into that argument. Obviously, Dexa Scan technology wasn't really made when underwater weighing was created, but there's a lot of benefits that a Dexa Scan can give you that underwater weighing definitely can't, in terms of the specific limb measurements where the fat is located. Actually, some of the more leaner individuals might test a little bit higher in terms of total body mass than they would on a lot of the other like skin fold measures, because those skin folds are just kind of giving an estimate of visceral fat, which is the fat that's around your organs, and you actually need a little bit of that. And so sometimes people will measure much lower in the 5 to 6%, but they might actually be, with a Dexa scan, show up a little bit higher because it's giving a little bit more accurate count of that visceral fat mass. Obviously, you have to understand a little bit on how to interpret the data as well. You do want to have some level of visceral fat because it protects vital organs and things like that, but you don't want it to be too high of a percentage of your overall body fat, because that can be an issue that's related to heart attack or something like that. So having somebody be able to identify, okay, maybe for a lean individual, you'd see a little bit a higher percent of their body mass as visceral fat, but maybe that's not that bad of a thing because they don't have any subcutaneous fat, which is the fat layer that's under the skin, or much fat there. So that's where you can't just eyeball it and say, oh, this is the answer. It's really taking into account how this fits in with this individual as a whole. So you're getting kind of a broad overview, but then there still needs to be a skilled practitioner that's actually looking at it and interpreting the data. So for me personally, for these two tests individually, there was nothing that jumped out at me. Actually, one of the things that was a little bit surprising was the amount of carbohydrate that I was burning at rest. That could have been due to not sitting around long enough before starting the test, the travel, things like that. But yeah, that was the only thing that was a little bit of a surprise when I did the test. The Dexa scans looked good. Everything was kind of in line with where I was anticipating. My BMR was right in line with what I was anticipating, and I guess those were the main reasons that I wanted to do these tests. Obviously, being a part of the lab or coming to the lab was great to be able to take advantage of the full gambit of testing. The BMR was probably the one that I gained the least valuable insights from. The Dexa scan was one that was more of just reassurance that, I was able to, it wasn't stupid to try to push on after, a number of Ironmans on the year to do one more marathon. There was no red flags or hot spots that showed up on the scan. So that was really what I personally took from it. But like I said, there's a lot of other valuable insights that you can get from doing a test like these. That's really all I have for this one. Again, I wanted to keep it short and sharp. The next videos I'll cover are on some of the gait analysis tests that I did, including the difference between trainers and the carbon shoes, which was actually pretty interesting, as well as some of the performance metrics like the VO2 max and the lactate testing that I did. So that's what I'll cover in future videos. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on your way out, and we'll see you next time.